Now, two bombshell Fox News exclusives, the Benghazi transcripts, pulling back the curtain on what really happened the night of the Benghazi terror attack. Fox News has obtained previously top-secret documents and transcripts indicating what President Obama knew and when he knew it, and why the U.S. did not get help there in time. We have Fox team coverage tonight. Jennifer Griffin at the Pentagon on what led to the military's lack of preparation and slow response that night. But we begin with Chief Washington correspondent James Rosen and previously secret information about that tragic night. Good evening, James.
Brett, good evening. Fox News has gotten first look at 450 pages of sworn testimony by America's highest-ranking military officers that reveal what they and President Obama knew about Benghazi from the earliest moments. The assault on the U.S. consulate in Benghazi began at 9:42 Libya time on the night of September 11, 2012. And within 15 minutes, General Carter Ham, the head of AFRICOM, was notified. Ham told the House Armed Services Subcommittee on Oversight and Investigations in June 2013, "My first call was to General Dempsey, General Dempsey's office, to say, hey, I am headed down the hall. I need to see him right away. I told him what I knew. We immediately walked upstairs to meet with Secretary Panetta. Then Defense Secretary Leon Panetta and General Martin Dempsey, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, were already scheduled to see President Obama in the Oval Office on different subjects. Congressman Buck McKeon, the Republican chairman of the Armed Services Committee, asked Ham, in your discussions with General Dempsey and Secretary Panetta, was there any mention of a demonstration or was all discussion about an attack? We knew, Ham testified, that a U.S. facility had been attacked and was under attack, and we knew at that point that we had two individuals, Ambassador Stevens and Mr. Smith, unaccounted for. First-term GOP Congressman Brad Wenstrup of Ohio, a veteran of the Iraq War, pressed the issue. As a military person, I am concerned that someone in the military would be advising that this was a demonstration. I would hope, Wenstrup added, that our military leadership would be advising that this was a terrorist attack. Again, sir, Ham testified, I think, there was some preliminary discussion about, maybe there was a demonstration, but I think at the command, I personally, and I think the command very quickly got to the point that this was not a demonstration, this was a terrorist attack. And you would have advised as such if asked. Would that be correct? Well, and with General Dempsey and Secretary Panetta, Ham said, that is the nature of the conversation we had. Yes, sir. In February of last year, Panetta told the Senate he introduced the subject of Benghazi to President Obama on the night of 9/11.
There was no question in my mind it was a terrorist attack.
Yet as he battled for re-election, President Obama and his top aides pressed a false narrative of the attacks, and Panetta said nothing publicly to correct it.
It was reported that people just went crazy and wild because of this anti-Muslim movie, or anti-Muhammad, I guess, movie. But then I heard Hillary Clinton say that it was an act of terrorism. Is it? What do you say?
Well, we're still doing an investigation.
He is in the president's cabinet. The American people deserve the truth.
Leon Panetta should have spoken up to the president directly. The people at the Pentagon and, frankly, the people at the CIA stood back while all of this was unfolding and allowed this narrative to go on longer than they should have.
The commander of AFRICOM's Joint Special Operations Task Force, Colonel George Bristol, testified that, quote, no one from the military was ever advising that this was a demonstration gone out of control, unquote. Now, tomorrow, we'll reveal more from the Benghazi transcripts, including evidence on whether the White House willfully misled the American people on how well prepared President Obama was on September 10 of 2012. Brett.
And James, you reached out to Leon Panetta and the White House.
That's right. We sent an email to Panetta's former chief of staff, still very close to the former secretary, no response. And at the White House press briefing today, Press Secretary Jay Carney, who knew I was there and why I was there, declined to call on me for a question.
Going back tomorrow?
I will.
Okay, James, thank you. For 15 months, there have been questions about who ordered what assets to assist the rescue and why they were so slow in arriving. National security correspondent Jennifer Griffin examines the 450 pages of newly declassified congressional testimony by commanders who led the rescue efforts.
The transcripts provide new insight into the military decision-making during the Benghazi attack. In particular, for the first time, General Carter Ham, then head of AFRICOM, who led the U.S. military response, explains in sworn testimony what assets he had available to him and debunks widespread speculation that he was removed from overseeing the military operation because he wanted to do more militarily that night than he was allowed to by his superiors or the White House. Chairman of the House Armed Services Committee, Buck McKeon did the questioning. Quote, I heard that you had made the statement that you were prepared to go to their aid and somebody told you no, and you said, we are going anyway. Is that all some supposition that comes from some reporter? Ham replies, yes, sir. No one ever told me no. The commander went on to present a picture of a woefully ill-postured military force whose assets were not in position to launch a timely response or rescue, not just in Benghazi, but also across Africa and the Middle East. No attack aircraft were placed on high alert on September 11th. Fighter jets were unarmed and air refuelers were 10 hours away in Great Britain.
They did what they could with what they had. The bottom line here is they didn't have what they needed to respond.
U.S. AFRICOM commanders were aware of a deteriorating security situation in Libya and offered a detachment of Marines to the Libyan embassy following a visit to Libya in December 2011 by then Defense Secretary Leon Panetta. The offer was rejected by the State Department, and there were no Marines in Libya on the night of the attack. Ham pushed back against repeated suggestions by committee members and some military analysts that sending an F-16 to fly over Benghazi on the night of the attack would have made any difference. Quote, the intelligence I had at the time caused me to conclude in my military judgment that attack aircraft would not be the appropriate response tool, and so I did not direct a heightened alert. Congressman Jason Chaffetz scolded Ham for not sending the C-17 rescue plane from Germany for the wounded until 2:15 p.m. the next day. The decision to rely on Libyan transport planes forced survivors accompanying Ambassador Stevens' body to wait an additional 3 hours in Benghazi. Not everyone could fit on the first flight out, and Libyan planes were barred from flying at night. Author Linda Robinson says special operations hands were tied when Ambassador Stevens decided not to base more uniformed military personnel in Libya.
Even our most specialized and elite warriors simply can't sprout wings and fly at supersonic speed. So there have to be provisions made in advance to respond to crises.
Perhaps the most vexing question for committee members was the decision to make the fast team of Marines sent as a quick reaction force from Spain to deplane and change out of their uniforms, delaying their response time by more than an hour.
Despite being ill-positioned and unprepared, the White House gave assurances to the contrary on the eve of the attack, claiming then Deputy National Security Advisor John Brennan and the White House had spent months reviewing U.S. military posture before the attack. My colleague James Rosen will have more on that tomorrow. Brett?
Jennifer Griffin live at the Pentagon tonight. Jennifer, thank you. You can go to the FoxNews.com homepage for more details on both Jennifer and James' Benghazi stories.